let's get this show on the road. Welcome everyone to a special Yom Kippur edition of the Pinto Town Hall. I am fasted, no food, no water, so if I'm a little bit off my game today, you know why. But I did not pull a Sandy Koufax. I am here, ready to go, and looking forward to hearing from all the contributors. All right, why don't we get started with Frijo? How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thank you. This week I've been working uh a lot with both Burr and Pinto Pirate on getting this convert bonus up. Convert bonus out on the UI and on the subgraphs.
Come again?
Convert up bonus. But yeah, making really good progress there. We're doing QC on the front end. I did an initial quality review, and then yesterday night or morning, you reviewed it as well and gave your feedback. So we're chugging along there. So things are looking really good. Hopefully, we're targeting for next week or next week after that deployment.
Thanks, Frijo. Anything else on your mind or that you've been working on?
Maybe a couple things, but not ready to share quite yet. So I'll hold off for now.
All right. Well, I may come back to you because I have thoughts about some of the stuff I know you're working on that we might make sense to talk about. So we may circle back. But for now, Burr, how are you, sir? How is work on the convert bonus UI going?
GM. It's going really good. Like Frijo mentioned, um, we've been working quite closely on QCing this thing. I think ideally, we want to provide the most seamless user experience for everybody. And so, we've been hard at work and trying to debug everything and trying to get um, all the bugs out of there. And so, yeah, everything is going pretty smoothly and can't complain. And everyone's been super helpful. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that update, Burr. Personally, I was quite impressed with the work once I was able to take a look, and yeah, it seems like we're pretty close. So hopefully that'll be soon. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's great stuff. All right, Mr. Floyd Rainweather, how are you, sir?
Doing great, GM everyone. On my end, this past week has been going through a small list of changes and issues that we found after deploying the landing page. Uh, Pretty much everything has been checked off the list. We managed to deploy everything. Pretty happy with that. There's one small issue with our dialog component that came up as a result of the way we use it in the landing page. And that's what's on my mind, what's going to be on my mind for the next few days. It's a bit tricky to solve, but eventually we'll get there, no matter what we have to do to get it fixed. So yeah, that was happening on my end.
Wonderful. Thank you, Floyd. All right, Pinto Pirate, how are you, sir?
Hello, doing well. On my end, I've been working on the convert up bonus middleware. At this point, I believe it is complete, pending Burr integrating it with the UI, whether there's any outstanding issues or just anything else that he'll need me to add there. But my understanding, at least, is that it's complete. And I also got some stuff ready for the Discord bots in the tractor channel, which, when someone publishes a requisition, cancels it, or, like the blueprint gets executed or whatever, much like we have for sewing, putting like those messages out there. So yeah, those should be ready as well. So beyond that, I think what I'll be working on is getting something ready. I want to be able to show like on the bots to like just like outside of Tractor, just like when somebody does a convert, like show how much bonus they got. So I'll be probably working on that a little bit today. And then beyond that, there's some improvements I want to try to make to the Tractor indexer, which will just kind of like let us like scale better as we start, creating like more and more blueprints that people are interacting with. Just kind of like improve like performance and costs. So now that we have, 2 different blueprints, it's a little bit easier to start kind of thinking about some of that stuff, at least like in new ways.
That sounds great. Thank you very much, Pinto Pirate. Yeah, I'm super stoked about this convert bonus stuff. All right. Harry Smith, what's the update on your end? No, I'm just messing. All right. Pinticito, how are you doing, sir?
Good, thank you, Ben. Glad to see some familiar names and I see Sean here, whom I don't recognize. Good to see everybody here. I've been largely focused on content this past week. So we just put out, within the last hour, what I think is the best explanation of converts to date, including some pretty comprehensive graphics. So I'm curious for people to take a look at them. A tremendous amount of work went into the graphics as well as the content. Shout out Ben and Frijo for helping me to execute on that. And yeah, we hope that it helps people to understand what is a very important part of peg maintenance, something which is underused and understood. So besides that, have been continuing to sprint on a lot of different articles that we will be releasing over the next few weeks. If we can finish everything, we might post it all on our Mirror page and then do like a Twitter launch of each one over the next couple months. TBD on that, but have been just focused on making the system as comprehensive as possible. And I think we're going to leverage these into docs as well because we feel pretty good about the rigor at which we're explaining the stuff. So curious about that. See some feedback. We'll see how it does on the socials. That's most of what I've been doing, other than some light UI upgrades in terms of copy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pinticito.
Yeah, I think Frijo and I, just to mention one other thing, are working on a couple grant applications, which we should be submitting within the next week or so.
Thank you, sir. Before I share my update, I want to note the absence of Default Juice, who has been a long-time contributor to the protocol, but is going to be taking a bit of a step back from contribution for the short term. I believe they'll still be around, but wanted to just shout them out and express gratitude. This is very much the long haul, trying to get people to adopt low volatility money, and in an environment where people still haven't really seemed to care or they're too scared, and very grateful for all the work that he's done here. So just wanted to shout that out. All right, on my end, this has been quite a busy week with documentation work with Pinticito. At this point, we have finished all but a couple graphics on the Understanding the Farm series we've been working on, and like one more section of one last article. And so we hope to finish all of that up this week. We also are working on a roadmap, which is quite lengthy, and another article explaining why we've chosen credit over collateral for our currency design. And that will sort of conclude. We expect to have all of that done by the end of this week, although we will continue to publish them as we have sort of one a week. But that really marks the conclusion of the top and middle part of the funnel. which I've talked quite a bit about here. And we are in the process of scoping out this full UI redesign, which is obviously where we'll be able to convert users. And then what remains is updating the white paper, the Gitbook, and the PIs. As I mentioned last week, I've spent quite a lot of time on the PIs as well. I've been waiting for some review from Frijo just to ensure that everything's accurate, and hope to, in the next week or so, also get to a pretty good spot where maybe we can start to publish some of those updated PIs. The white paper is going to be a bit more of a large work in order to really edit that stuff properly. It requires sort of like a refresher, loading back up all the details of the white paper in particular into the cache. So that will take a bit more of a block of time, which I don't know exactly when I'll have to do. And we're going to try to take all these articles that we've made and turn them into an updated version of the Gitbook. So there continues to be quite a lot of work done on this end, really trying to make Pinto more accessible to people. And as Pinticito said, the launch of the Convert article today really does mark a new chapter in trying to make this whole thing much more understandable to people. It really breaks it down in a way that anyone that wants to learn can learn. So quite proud of that, and grateful to Pinticito for all of their help. That is pretty much it for me. One thing I wanted to mention or throw out there as we open up the floor is one thing that I've been talking a bit about with Pinticito and Frijo and Captain is the idea of a pod referral system, which was originally proposed by Karakaya a little while back, where the idea would be that we would basically set up a system whereby people can have a referral code. It would probably be their wallet. And if you join with someone's referral code, they would get some extra pods minted from the protocol as a way to really incentivize people to go share this with others. And, the downside of such a system is that, on the one hand, it's hard to prevent this type of system from being gamed, where you could refer yourself, for example. And we don't intend to implement any sort of like KYC or something that would be able to mitigate that. So we're trying to figure out, can we put a threshold, but it doesn't really prevent it, even if we put a threshold. So just thinking through the implications of that. But, people may say, well, isn't that like a Ponzi or something? In my mind, given that people have to burn the value in order to participate in the referral system and lend to the protocol, it's far from it. And so this is something that, now that we're at the final stages of the convert bonus system, and like I said, we're now trying to figure out how do we get people to start to take the protocol seriously and actually adopt it. This is something that I think makes sense for potentially the first time. Or I should say potentially makes sense for the first time. So, Frijo, curious if you can share any thoughts on that, or I don't know if you've started development on that, but would be curious for you to share how that's going.
Yeah. I mean, from a backend perspective, the implementation is quite simple. You would just need to inject the address in which the referral, wants to receive the pods in. The front end, even the, and like you said, on the backend side, it's very, very hard to prevent a Sybil attack where someone can just put in their own address. Despite of that, we can implement some way in the front end where it's very, very hard for you to actually do that unless you're very technically inclined. Uh, from my perspective, we can do it in a way where we have a check. We check for all the cell events for a given user and see if they've actually, they themselves have some threshold of pods in order for the criteria to be met. If that isn't met, then the front end would not use that referral address. Depending on the actual criteria, we can make it as more easy or hard to get the referral link, but there are numerous ways where we can, at least on the front end, minimize that such that the referral link does have some value in it of itself. one of the attacks we're trying to minimize is that if someone gets a referral link, you know, they that they see that it's very easily changeable. You know, they themselves can just manipulate the referral link so that they themselves get the referral. You know, we want to avoid that use case. So, you know, with it, I think we can prevent probably 99% of these cases just by minimal front end additions. But yeah, I mean, it will take some time to discuss how to actually be implemented, you know, in the front end itself, and you know, need to have discussion with Burr and how we add this into, you know, our currently scoped projects for the Q4 and Q1 terms. But yeah, I mean, it seems very fun to do. I mean, it seems very interesting. You know, one of the things about money is that we really do need a network effect, and this referral system is one of the ways that the protocol can do it in a way that aligns with the protocol itself. So excited to see how we implement this in practice.
Thanks, Frio. Curious if people have thoughts about this program, whether they like it, dislike it, think it's a good idea, bad idea. You know, personally, I think it has a lot of potential, but curious what other people think.
I mean, I'm interested in seeing how we can make the referral link decay over time such that, like, you know, once we hit some threshold in which the value of the referral or the network, you know, adding a new person to the network doesn't exceed the value of the pods generated themselves. If that's me, it's interesting in a way. You know, we have a natural shut-off valve. We haven't really got that far in how that we implemented, but you know, curious if you had any thoughts there. You know, currently, I guess the default action would be that the TCM would be the one in de facto charge of when the referral link turns on and off. So curious if we can find a way we can avoid that, and whether that's you know, a useful thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there is a natural decrease there already if we set the reward at the referral link at something like a fixed percent of the temperature, where as the system grows, it's likely that the temperature would come down. But we could also make it such that that percentage of the temperature is not fixed. Instead, it's a function of the amount of pods that are issued under the referral system or the supply or something like that. So I think that's a very interesting point, Frio, and yeah, definitely something we should consider as we think about how to best build this out. I think I saw.
Where would those oh,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna ask where I don't think it was mentioned. Where would those extra pods be coming from? Would they be like minted extra at the protocol level?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All right. So just throwing that out there is something we've been thinking about. Captain, I saw you just joined. I know you've been a proponent of this referral system. Do you have any thoughts about it you want to share?
Sorry, I missed the conversation, but I think referral system, keeping integrity and doing it ethically would be very helpful for the system. It still needs a good design, I think. I don't know what you have in mind.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, going to leave the floor open for another few seconds here to see if people have other thoughts or questions about this potential penalty system. Sorry, not penalty system, referral system. All right. So with that, going to open up the floor more generally. The floor is open. Anything that's on people's minds, questions, thoughts, comments, FUD. Floor is open. Well, I'm going to chime in here with some of my thoughts. It might be a little brief today. I'm a little lightheaded. But to start, I do want to talk about the implications of the convert bonus and penalty system, where we already have this penalty, which should decrease the amount of convert down pressure when the price increases above the value target. But the preference for depositors to hold deposited LP over deposited Pinto, we've tried increasing the crop rate, the maximum crop ratio. We've seen how that has had some effect on converts, but still not the level of effect that we would want. And I think part of the reason, or we'll see if this is right, but I'm interested in getting the data on this, is because the crop ratio affects all of the deposits simultaneously, there's not really that effect when the crop ratio goes up of you get anything sort of locked in. There's no bonus that you lock in. So even if there's some short-term benefit for converting that will affect the seeds that you receive, actually, if you convert all the way back to the value target, it has the potential to decrease the crop rate, and then you sort of lose the benefit of the seeds. And the friction there is, well, why would I convert up even if I'm going to get more seeds if that's going to be very temporary? And the dynamic there is, well, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to convert down again, and so that further disincentivizes the convert ups, even if there's some short-term realized benefit for converting up because of the high crop ratio. In practice, you really need to assume that you have to not convert all the way to the value target, which is still what the protocol wants, and you have to assume that other people are also not going to convert to the value target, causing the crop ratio to come down. And so we still have this friction of getting people to convert that has been demonstrated. And so the convert bonus is really a significant improvement in the system, in the ability for the protocol to incentivize people to convert, because now there's a one-time bonus, and the participation in the bonus actually makes it such that other people get less of a bonus potentially. So we're going to have something similar to the temperature in the field, where the bonus is fluctuating based on demand for the converting and the price. And so what's really interesting about this is, and I can't say that the incentive is perfect because there's not this FIFO type of system like we have for pods, where there's an active disincentive for waiting at the same level. But now there is the potential to benefit in a fixed way that you realize in perpetuity, where you lock in more stock. And so I'm very excited and interested to see how the introduction of a one-time bonus affects demand for converting up. When you consider if that system works, and then you combine it with the convert down penalty, we may enter a situation where the protocol is finally able to oscillate the price of Pinto across its value target. Or it may be that the mechanics of the convert up bonus are not refined enough, and the incentives, we need something like a FIFO system, although I don't know what that would look like, of course. But personally, I'm very excited to get this data. This is, as I've been talking about, sort of the last layer of the onion that we're currently working on with respect to the protocol. So quite an exciting period of time. before I move on to other stuff, I'm going to open up the floor and see if people have comments or questions or thoughts about the convert bonus. And one thing to mention is we'll be putting out an article next week, assuming that we put out the update next week. Whenever we put out the update, we'll be putting out an article in addition to a PI describing it. We'll be putting out an article similar to the convert article that went out today, actually describing the convert bonus and penalty system and how they work together. So, personally, I'm quite excited about getting this out and also putting out some content to explain to people all the ins and outs of the mechanism. So, all right, the floor is open for questions, comments, thoughts, etc. All right. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I continue to monitor quite closely the inflows and outflows from the protocol. And this is something that I think is quite meaningful from the perspective of is the higher crop ratio causing more outflows? Is when the price goes up or goes down? How do people react? Is the stock system working? And this is something that I think, frankly, the data has been quite encouraging. If you look over the past month or so, there's been only about $100,000 of outflows from the protocol net. Maybe a little bit more than that, but I'm looking at the chart right now, and it's quite low. It's right around 100K. So for me, this is a very meaningful indicator that even though there are no prints right now, people are sticking around for the long haul. The stock system is working. The bank run minimization is working. One thing that I think really differentiates this longer period of time where we're below the value target for an extended period of time from in the past is, and particularly with Beanstalk, with Beanstalk after the exploit and the replant, there was some printing, but then there was a long period of time below the value target. It created a perverse incentive where new depositors had so little stock compared to older depositors that had been there that there was a real disincentive to deposit. And now that we have this time to catch up parameter in the stock system, that's no longer the case. So even though the stock system is working at the individual level, as we're seeing the data demonstrate that there's not a lot of outflows from the system, it's quite encouraging to know. It's quite encouraging to see that. And then it's also great to know that the system is not actively penalizing new deposits. So this is a part of the mechanism that I think, even though we haven't quite seen new inflows, to me it's quite encouraging to know that the mechanism is not actively discouraging those inflows. So in my mind, it's only a matter of time, and this is one of the reasons why I've been putting in so much work, as well as Pinticito, on really refining the funnel so that we have the potential to convert new users. So that, as I mentioned in previous weeks, is something that I'm watching quite closely, and the data continues to be positive. We did have one outflow of like 34,000 earlier this week, but generally, as has been the case, one outflow has not led to another outflow. So that is bank run minimization at work. All right, the floor is open again. Either comments or questions on what I was just talking about. Any comments, questions in general, thoughts in general, the floor is open. All right. If there's no other comments or questions or thoughts, I think we might wrap this one a bit early. Like I said, it's Yom Kippur, so I'm a little low on gas today to just talk extemporaneously. So I'm going to leave it open for another 30 seconds, see if there's anything on people's minds.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.